Section 57 of English Synonyms and Antonyms. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. English Synonyms and Antonyms by James Champlin Fernald. From Sacrament to Self-Abnegation. Sacrament. Synonyms: ceremony, communion, Eucharist, Lord's Supper, observance, ordinance, rite, service, solemnity. Any religious act, especially a public act viewed as a means of serving God, is called a service. The word commonly includes the entire series of exercises of a single occasion of public worship. A religious service ordained as an outward and visible sign of an inward and spiritual grace is called a sacrament. Ceremony is a form expressing reverence, or at least respect. We may speak of religious ceremonies, the ceremonies of polite society, the ceremonies of a coronation, an inauguration, etc. An observance has more than a formal obligation, reaching or approaching a religious sacredness. A stated religious observance, viewed as established by authority, is called an ordinance. Viewed as an established custom, it is a rite. The terms sacrament and ordinance in the religious sense are often used interchangeably. The ordinance derives its sacredness from the authority that ordained it, while the sacrament possesses a sacredness due to something in itself, even when viewed simply as a representation or memorial. The Lord's Supper is the scriptural name for the observance commemorating the death of Christ. The word communion is once applied to it, 1 Corinthians 10:16, but not as a distinctive name. At an early period, however, the name communion was so applied as denoting the communing of Christians with their Lord, or with one another. The term Eucharist describes the Lord's Supper as a thanksgiving service. It is also called by preeminence the sacrament, as the ratifying of a solemn vow of consecration to Christ. Sagacious. Synonyms: able, acute, apt, clear-sighted, discerning, intelligent, keen, keen-sighted, keen-witted, judicious, perspicacious, quick of scent, quick-scented, rational, sage, sensible, sharp, sharp-witted, shrewd, wise. Sagacious refers to a power of tracing the hidden or recondite by slight indications as by instinct or intuition. It is not now applied to mere keenness of sense perception. We do not call a hound sagacious in following a clear trail, but if he loses the scent, as at the edge of a stream, and circles around till he strikes it again, his conduct is said to be sagacious. In human affairs, sagacious refers to a power of ready, far-reaching, and accurate inference from observed facts, perhaps in themselves very slight, that seems like a special sense, or to a similar readiness to foresee the results of any action, especially upon human motives or conduct. A kind of prophetic common sense. Sagacious is a broader and nobler word than shrewd, and not capable of the invidious sense which the latter word often bears. On the other hand, sagacious is less lofty and comprehensive than wise in its full sense, and more limited to matters of direct practical moment. Compare astute, wisdom. Antonyms: absurd, dull, foolish, futile, ignorant, irrational, obtuse, senseless, silly, simple, sottish, stupid, undiscerning, unintelligent. Sale. Synonyms: bargain, barter, change, deal, exchange, trade. A bargain is strictly an agreement or contract to buy and sell, though the word is often used to denote the entire transaction and also as a designation for the thing sold or purchased. Change and exchange are words of wider signification, applying only incidentally to the transfer of property or value. A change secures something different in any way or by any means. An exchange secures something as an equivalent or return, though not necessarily as payment for what is given. Barter is the exchange of one commodity for another, the word being used generally with reference to portable commodities. Trade in the broad sense may apply to vast businesses, as the book trade, but as denoting a single transaction is used chiefly in regard to things of moderate value, when it becomes nearly synonymous with barter. Sale is commonly and with increasing strictness limited to the transfer of property for money, or for something estimated at a money value or considered as equivalent to so much money in hand or to be paid. A deal in the political sense is a bargain, substitution, or transfer for the benefit of certain persons or parties against all others, as the nomination was the result of a deal. In business it may have a similar meaning, but it frequently signifies simply a sale or exchange, a dealing, as a heavy deal in stocks. Sample. Synonyms: case, example, exemplification, illustration, instance, specimen. A sample is a portion taken at random out of a quantity supposed to be homogeneous, so that the qualities found in the sample may reasonably be expected to be found in the whole, as a sample of sugar, a sample of cloth. A specimen is one unit of a series, or a fragment of a mass, all of which is supposed to possess the same essential qualities, as a specimen of coinage, or of architecture, or a specimen of quartz. No other unit or portion may be exactly like the specimen, while all the rest is supposed to be exactly like the sample. An instance is a sample or specimen of action. Compare example. Antonyms: abnormality, aggregate, exception, monstrosity, total, whole. Satisfy. Synonyms: cloy, content, fill, glut, sate, satiate, suffice, surfeit. To satisfy is to furnish just enough to meet physical, mental, or spiritual desire. To sate or satiate is to gratify desire so fully as for a time to extinguish it. To cloy or surfeit is to gratify to the point of revulsion or disgust. Glut is a strong but somewhat coarse word applied to the utmost satisfaction of vehement appetites and passions, as to glut a vengeful spirit with slaughter. We speak of glutting the market with a supply so excessive as to extinguish the demand. Much less than is needed to satisfy may suffice a frugal or abstemious person. Less than a sufficiency may content one of a patient and submissive spirit. Compare pay, requite. Antonyms: check, deny, disappoint, refuse, restrain, restrict, starve, stint, straiten, tantalize. Prepositions: satisfy with food, with gifts, etc. Satisfy one in the sense of make satisfaction, for labors and sacrifices. Satisfy oneself by or upon inquiry. Scholar. Synonyms: disciple, learner, pupil, savant, student. The primary sense of a scholar is one who is being schooled. Thence the word passes to denote one who is apt in schoolwork, and finally one who is thoroughly schooled, master of what the schools can teach, an erudite, accomplished person. When used without qualification, the word is generally understood in this latter sense, as he is manifestly a scholar. Pupil signifies one under the close personal supervision or instruction of a teacher or tutor. Those under instruction in schools below the academic grade are technically and officially termed pupils. The word pupil is uniformly so used in the reports of the Commissioner of Education of the United States, but popular American usage prefers scholar in the original sense, as teachers and scholars enjoyed a holiday. Those under instruction in Sunday schools are uniformly designated as Sunday school scholars. Student is applied to those in the higher grades or courses of study, as the academic, collegiate, scientific, etc. Student suggests less proficiency than scholar in the highest sense, the student being one who is learning, the scholar one who has learned. On the other hand, student suggests less of personal supervision than pupil. Thus the college student often becomes the private pupil of some instructor in special studies. For disciple, etc., compare synonyms for adherent. Antonyms: dunce, fool, idiot, idler, ignoramus, illiterate person. Science. Synonyms: art, knowledge. knowledge of a single fact not known as related to any other, or of many facts not known as having any mutual relations or as comprehended under any general law, does not reach the meaning of science. Science is knowledge reduced to law and embodied in system. The knowledge of various countries gathered by an observant traveler may be a heterogeneous medley of facts, which gain real value only when coordinated and arranged by the man of science. Art always relates to something to be done, science to something to be known. Not only must art be discriminated from science, but art in the industrial or mechanical sense must be distinguished from art in the aesthetic sense. The former aims chiefly at utility, the latter at beauty. The mechanic arts are the province of the artisan, the aesthetic or fine arts are the province of the artist. All the industrial arts, as of weaving or printing, arithmetic or navigation, are governed by exact rules. Art in the highest aesthetic sense, while it makes use of rules, transcends all rule. No rules can be given for the production of a painting like Raphael's Transfiguration, a statue like the Apollo Belvedere, or a poem like the Iliad. Science does not, like the mechanic arts, make production its direct aim, yet its possible productive application in the arts is a constant stimulus to scientific investigation. The science, as in the case of chemistry or electricity, is urged on to higher development by the demands of the art, while the art is perfected by the advance of the science. Creative art seeking beauty for its own sake is closely akin to pure science seeking knowledge for its own sake. Compare knowledge, literature. Security. Synonyms: bail, earnest, gage, pledge, surety. The first four words agree in denoting something given or deposited as an assurance of something to be given, paid, or done. An earnest is of the same kind as that to be given, a portion of it delivered in advance, as when part of the purchase money is paid, according to the common expression, to bind the bargain. A pledge or security may be wholly different in kind from that to be given or paid, and may greatly exceed it in value. Security may be of real or personal property, anything of sufficient value to make the creditor secure. A pledge is always of personal property or chattels. Every pawn shop contains unredeemed pledges. Land, merchandise, bonds, etc. are frequently offered and accepted as security. A person may become security or surety for another's payment of a debt, appearance in court, etc. In the latter case, he is said to become bail for that person. The person accused gives bail for himself. Gauge survives only as a literary word, chiefly in certain phrases, as the gauge of battle. Prepositions: security for the payment of a debt, security to the state, for the prisoner, in the sum of $1,000. Self-abnegation. Synonyms: self-control, self-denial, self-devotion, self-immolation, self-renunciation, self-sacrifice. Self-control is holding oneself within due limits in pleasures and duties, as in all things else. Self-denial, the giving up of pleasures for the sake of duty. Self-renunciation surrenders conscious rights and claims. Self-abnegation forgets that there is anything to surrender. There have been devotees who practiced very little self-denial with very much self-renunciation. A mother will care for a sick child with complete self-abnegation, but without a thought of self-denial. Self-devotion is heart consecration of self to a person or cause, with readiness for any needed sacrifice. Self-sacrifice is the strongest and completest term of all, and contemplates the gift of self as actually made. We speak of the self-sacrifice of Christ, where any other of the above terms would be feeble or inappropriate. Antonyms: self-gratification, self-indulgence, selfishness, self-seeking, self-will. End of section 57. Recording by Estelle Jobson, Italy, Rome.